What's up, agents, and welcome back to another PTS Phase 2 video. Yes, we're going to talk about the Ouroboros nerf that everybody's upset about after the changes that came out yesterday in the dev notes. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and let's get straight into it. Right, okay, so this is all just off notes that we've had. This might actually be subject to change when the PTS goes live. I'm assuming this weekend. We'll certainly get to see something on Thursday in the live stream that they're going to do. But after I did the St. Elmo video yesterday, I did talk about the Ouroboros, and there was some comments that I did forget about the muzzle. Now, that was correct, but that then opened an absolute can of worms. So if we take a look, this is the live game that I've got open right now, and what we'll do is we'll remove striker because we don't want any RPM buff or anything like that, so no rate of fire buff. So if we take a look at the Ouroboros right now as it is today, as we all know and love it, it is 14.85, right? So that's great. And if we scroll down here, you can see that we actually get a 10% rate of fire mod. All right, so that's absolutely wonderful, right? So we know that the base RPM for this gun is 1350. And if we add 10% to that and we go equals, we get 14.85. Everything's happy in the world. Absolutely hunky-dory. Now, if I flip over to the Trello board and we look at what they were changing, and this is where things start to not make a lot of sense. And I've questioned multiple people about this, IKEA, whose spreadsheet I'm using in this example as well. You know, people that do maths way better than me, right? Just to make sure I'm not wrong here. And it seems that there was something wrong at the core of all of this. So when we go here on the Ouroboros, you'll be able to see that with the 10 rounds is easy, right? It's going from 40, it's going back to 50. No problem whatsoever. Dead easy. But it said it was going to get a 10.4 rate of fire change. So in the PTS, the Ouroboros was changed to 13.75 RPM. That's including the muzzle, right? So this is where things start to get a little bit odd. And I mean, I'll show them a spreadsheet here, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit more to perhaps blow your brains up a little bit more. And maybe somebody out there is better at maths than me. Maybe they can explain it. Maybe I've done it wrong, but there is no way I can get the 10.4 number to match up, and I'll explain why. So obviously, if you take away a percentage and then add a percentage, you can't add the same amount because a percentage or a bigger number is a bigger portion of the number. So you can't just add and take away 10% for this to work. But in the Trello yesterday, they mentioned that they were going to change the Ouroboros from 1275, which it was in phase 1, to 1250. So that is odd to say the least, because in the PTS it was 1375. So that is odd to say the least, because if let's say it was 1275 and then we add the 10% rate of fire mod to it, the RPM would have been 1403. And we know it wasn't. We know the RPM was 1375. Now, if we take the 1250 and we add the 10% to that, nice and easy, 1375. So it works out. So it looks like the RPM in the first phase of the PTS was actually set at 1250, and the other change obviously was the 10 rounds in the mag was missing. They put the magazine size down to 40 instead of 50, and we know that's being readjusted. So that's what's very, very strange. Now, there is no way I can get them numbers to match up in any way or form or whatsoever. So if I take the 1350 that it is now, so that's minus the mod, and they said that it was getting a 10.4% nerf, right? So if we take away 10.4%, that works out at 12, 1210, right? So 1210. So if we have 1210 and we add the 10%, we already know this isn't going to work. We had the 10% mag back on. We're not 1375. You know, it doesn't work. Okay. So maybe they took the 1485 and maybe they just took 10.4% off flat. All right, let's have a look at that. 10.4% off flat. Nope, because that doesn't come to 1375 either. And no matter which way around or anything that I do, I can't get it to match up to 10%. The closest I could get it to was around a 7% RPM nerf. And the reason, you know, I went from that. So if we take the 1375 and we'll just pull up a, let's pull up a calculator here. And we'll just take the values that we see in the game, right? Including the mag, including the muzzle that gives us the 10%. And you can see here the 1485 that we've got now, and it's going to go to 1375. And it works out at a 7.8% change in rate of fire, not 10.4 that is being advertised. And that's the closest I can get. So anywhere around I do the math, I take the muzzle off, put the muzzle on, do the subtractions, try and do it any other way. There's no way I can get it to work out to the numbers that it was showing in the PTS, and certainly not to these numbers here. And obviously these are the ones that are actually important because they're the ones that they're going to be set to. So I think from the PTS phase 1 patch notes saying that there was going to be a 10.4% reduction in RPM, there was actually some kind of discussion and some kind of change, and when that PTS went live, that's actually been, you know, it was obviously going to be a harsher change than what we actually got. And obviously now when we get this here, it's not at 1250, it's what it was in the PTS. So what does that mean for damage numbers? What does that mean for burst, and, you know, comparing it to other guns and everything like that? Well, looking at this is IKEA's sheet that I've actually just modified a little bit. We can look here that obviously now at 1375 RPM with 50 bullets in the mag, we get a significant boost in magazine damage, obviously because there's an extra 10 bullets in there. And the sustained damage goes up quite a bit also. Is this going to mean that it's going to be king again? I'm not entirely sure. Because obviously you can see here the rate of fire on the chatterbox and what that is going to be. I mean, it's going to be solid, it's going to be good, but is it going to be absolutely amazing? I am not entirely sure if this is enough of a change to put it back on top. For instance, you know, it's 1485. We can change this to 1485 and you can see what the numbers were like beforehand. So at 1485, you can see here that the burst DPS is pretty big, the sustained DPS is pretty big, and it was absolutely, you know, king. You know, so we're looking at 539 here at the damage. If we take that back, the sustained DPS is actually 515. Actually, that's not as big as what I thought. 515852, and if we put that, we go forward in time again, and we look at that at 539336. We calculate that, so that's only a 4.5% reduction now in damage value to what it was. So actually, I think it will probably still be really, really, really good. Obviously, though, the difference being now is the fact that we've got other SMGs in the pipeline that have had a buff, namely the chatterbox, which looks really, really well, especially at max rate of fire. It's pretty insane. But I think this is actually pretty good now. If I pull up my TU22 sheet, what's the rate of fire on a 3-stack or chatterbox? 1488. Oh, so this is actually a 3-stack right now from my video yesterday. So at a 3-stack, it's competing, which is pretty interesting. If we change that to 1913, which is max stacks, it's winning. It's winning hard. It's winning hard. So that, you know, if you can keep your chatterbox over 3 stacks at all times, chatterbox will be a winner. But obviously, it depends on what game you want to play. And if we go down to the burst DPS tables. Obviously, there's not a lot of difference here because, you know, how that works out. But you can see here that Ouroboros still sits at the top of the burst DPS table, again, until you get over 3 stacks on a chatterbox, which put it there. And at max stacks, which is 1913, you get a huge amount of burst DPS, and obviously no reload. So it is going to be very, very, very close. I'm kind of erring on the side that they should just not do this because of how good the chatterbox is. But then me saying that might, you know, encourage the chatterbox buff to not be as big as it is. And that's obviously subject to change as well. It's still very unstable. It's still not quite where it needs to be. I would kind of like things to stay as they are, but give us this RPM back, the 1485. I think if you give us that RPM back, it sits pretty nicely then. Because if I go back up to this one here, and then I look at the damage on chatterbox at chatterbox at max stacks. So if we put it down to 1488, yeah, I mean that's 3 stacks. So even if you put the Ouroboros back to 1485, the chatterbox at 3 stacks is still competing. So I kind of think that they could put the Ouroboros back to where it is. Just leave it alone. But that's all subject to change. Who knows what's going to happen? I guess we'll see. But I did want to make this video because of obviously the correction of the RPM that I did from the video yesterday. And also what I didn't pick up on was the change in the original patch notes of the PTS. That it's not actually a 10.4% nerf. It's actually less than that. It's more around 7%. So yeah, there we go for the video. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you for plenty of PTS videos this weekend. Bye bye.